This game is what I would qualify, I think most people would qualify, as an edutainment game. While I do love these types of games, my guilty gaming secret is I really love the Carmen Sandiego series. All of them. This right here is an example of not how to do it. It doesn't make it fun to search out the information. And if I was a kid, or really even the target audience for this, early teens, high school age, I don't think I could have sat through this, and I love history. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see the books I often buy, sometimes I post, is textbooks, historical books, wartime stories, history, all of that is my jam. But this game is just boring, and somehow I lost a save and lost over an hour and a half of gameplay, and it felt like my soul was being crushed. It took me about half the time to get back to that spot since I knew what I was doing, but it wasn't fun to go and replay that. I think my favorite quote from a GameSpot review of this game is, "When is a game not a game? When its mission seems to educate rather than entertain." For me, a great example of learning that's fun is Assassin's Creed. Yes, everything is not 100% historically accurate, but it's solid. Like in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, all the assassinations you do are the times and places where the real people died, or in AC Origins, where you have the educational walkthrough mode. That is fantastic. There are ways to educate and entertain, or at least make it fun to search out the education. Anyway, the whole premise is you are a servant named Lalande, a valet de chambre or personal servant in Versailles in 1658, and you must discover a plot to kill King Louis of France and set fire to the palace. A lot of the puzzles relate back to Aesop's fables or the title of Aesop's works. Along the way, you must solve puzzles for famous members of the French court in the time, including Charles Le Brun, the first painter of the king, Jean-Baptiste Lully, a French composer, and many others from the time. It took me about 5 hours to finish this on PlayStation emulator, and oh my god, did I feel every single one of those hours. It says there are over 30 characters to talk to. I couldn't tell you because I don't remember how many people I talked to, and over 2,000 paintings to look at. Again, I can't tell you if I looked at all of them. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Sometimes you don't really there's no benefit to looking at the paintings. There's no benefit to reading the codexes. Anyway, there are no collectibles or side missions. You can read the in-game codexes, which are basically Wikipedia articles about the era, the people, events, and the palace itself. On its wiki page, Versailles 1685, or Versailles, A Game of Intrigue, was released in 1997 by Cryo Interactive, published by Cryo, Canal Plus Multimedia, and the RMN, or Réunion des Musées Nationaux. I know I butchered that. For Mac, PC, and PlayStation. And this game has been almost impossible to find information on. And I haven't even been able to find a physical copy anywhere at the time of writing this. Like, not on eBay, not on some weird site. I haven't even, nowhere can I find a physical copy of this game. I'm playing the PlayStation version, although I do kind of want to try the DOS version in a weird, twisted way. I don't know why. I just kind of want to do, you know? Cryo, along with the Musée National, or RMN, used their proprietary software, the Omni 3D, to recreate and model Versailles in breathtaking detail. Breathtaking by 1997 PS1 edutainment standards. The game is 3D when moving and in the cutscenes, but 2D when static and looking around and interacting with the rooms, which means every time you move, it goes into a cutscene. Even if you accidentally go into the room you don't mean to go, it'll go into a cutscene, and then it'll pause, it'll load the room, and then you can look around that one room from specific vantage points. All preset for you. There's no fast moving here. It is like you're walking around Versailles itself, and I will say that maybe it's just a PlayStation version, but it's not the most beautiful game out there. Given that you are in one of the most splendid palaces of the time. Especially in semi-dark areas, this game, looks a little not great. The cutscenes have a lot of compression and noise in them, and yes, the palace is modeled well. Each room is like a 1-to-1, but it's not the best looking game out there. I said that before, it's not the best looking game out there, especially by 1997 standards, when we had games like Final Fantasy, Crash Bandicoot, Need for Speed, just to name a few. The character models, are just ugly. I'm sorry to say this. Every model that you can interact with has this weird like Play-Doh doll look to them, like someone who's in their very early modeling class, but somehow it's just a tiny bit creepier. It's definitely on the uncomfortable side of the uncanny valley. Some models are worse than others, though. The females tend to look, passable, okay, but the males, ooh, it's a hit or miss. Especially at towards the end when you meet the church or the bishop guy, it's just like, ooh, that's a little terrifying. There is limited animation for the models, and it's a hit or miss most of the times there too. Most of the times the lips aren't moving, even though the dialogue's coming out. Sometimes they don't do the proper animations, which mainly just consists of them moving their arms up and down, or if it's a full body cutscene, them kind of robot walking out of the cutscene. Yeah. I also think I broke the game in the Lalanne's quarters areas because it just didn't show anything where it was supposed to be, and all the icons and everything was out of place, and it was like at one side of the room instead of all around the room, and no matter how many times I restarted, it never went back. So I think maybe the file was corrupted or something happened there, but I don't know what was going on. The soundtrack consists of nothing but classical, baroque, and opera pieces, which, is fine at first when you get into the game, but the game starts and stops the soundtrack every time you interact with anything. Every single time. And then it starts from the beginning of that same song, and it really wears on you, which is fine. It fits well with the age and the game, and at the age I am now, I actually like classical music. I can stand it, but after a while, it does just be like, okay, what did you guys only release 1 or 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 songs in the different areas? It is very grating after a while. When anyone talks, the music drops just to have the dialogue set in complete silence, and sometimes the lines don't match the words that's being spoken, or the wrong dialogue will come out of the wrong character, especially in the Hall of Mirrors, which was so confusing to me because I talked to one character and then I went to talk to well, you don't really talk to characters, you overhear them in most circumstances, and the line that the previous character said was coming out of that guy's mouth, and I was just like, am I hearing this right? It was really weird. I usually cut breaks here and there for voice acting because I know how hard it is. I've done it before. But this is really a mixed bag. Some voices are fantastic with their French accents and delivery of dialogue, but some, let's just say, aren't as great, to put it nicely. I don't want to intentionally put people down for their voice acting, unless it's like, you can deliberately tell they're just trying to be bad. I know how hard it is, that's why I'm cutting people breaks. And the audio mixing is just half bad. Or is bad. Half the time you can't hear anything. You can't hear the dialogue in cutscenes because the cutscenes are so loud and there's no way to mess with that. And there's no subtitles, so in the cutscenes I can't understand what's going on. But granted, I probably wouldn't even be able to read it because the graphics are so janky. So I had to try this game when I saw the scores, when I got it added to my launch box and saw the community scores, and I knew I had to give it a whirl. I looked up what little I could find online, and then it just solidified it for me. The puzzles are simple and easy to solve, really more common sense using than actual problem solving. There is a section towards the end of the game in Act 6 that is just a complete pad for time. As the king is out on his promenade in the garden, you get to go out and explore the gardens to find more clues to your overall case of who's trying to kill the king and set fire to the palace. Which is cool, it's a new area, ooh. But then you enter the royal maze, and oh boy is it a mess. I had to use a Dutch translated walkthrough to get through this part after wandering around for a bit and not knowing what I was doing. I felt like it was a lot like random chance to find the person I needed, because you can't tell where you're going. I mean, here, yes, there are landmarks here and there, but most of it looks the same. And there's no, the one place you want cutscenes to show, oh, I'm making a left turn here. There's no cutscenes in the maze to guide your movement. It's just snap, snap, snap. And sometimes you get lost. I got lost a couple times. Well, more than a couple times. Everything just looks the same. Once I found the guy I needed to talk to, he wanted me to leave and then come back with medicine. Yes, I said that right. He wanted me to leave after finding him struggling, and then come back, go get the medicine, and then come back to him. Then, and only after then, do you get a quote-unquote map. But you have to wander around to find him, wander around to leave, go get your medicine. Getting the medicine is the most straightforward part of that mission, or section of the game, and then wander in to find him again. I think just looking for him, I spent a good 20 minutes hoping the game would spit me out somewhere close, so I could kind of get a bearing of where I was. And once you get the map, it doesn't tell you that you can leave, you shouldn't leave yet, because then it starts the final mission once you get out of there, and the final mission is timed, unfortunately, or the final section of the game is timed. This is when it really started to drag. This maze scene, the whole game was not fun to get through, but this is when it started to really drag for me. I appreciate a good maze like Siberia. That was fun, quick, although I don't really know if you would qualify it as a maze because you just went one way, got what you needed, and then popped back out. I love GTA's maze too, when Halloween comes and you can be the serial killer and all that stuff. That's a great maze too. But this game's maze just grinded on me. It ground the game to a standstill when it's not needed. That one part took me about 45 minutes to get through, with the help of the Dutch translated walkthrough. Another big thing for me was I don't like when games leave things in my inventory at the end of the game, and this game left me with almost a full inventory at the end. I don't know if I missed something or if it's by design, and to me it really throws it off, like, did I miss something here? Was there something back there? There was a piece of paper I picked up in Act 1 and never touched again. Didn't even have a clue to say that it's useful or I should be using it for something or something like that, because you can do stuff with it in the first part, and then but you just don't touch it again. I picked it up and I Skyrimmed it through the rest of the game. Just carried it with me like those potions I say I'm gonna use, but then I have 600 potions and I just don't know what to do with them at that point. If I was given this game as a kid, while I do love games like Encarta Mind Maze and Dr. Brain, I don't think this game would have been a joy to play. It has parts here and there. The story is somewhat generic to focus you. All the history and documents are there to read at your leisure. The setting in the Grand Palace of Versailles, the artwork that has stood tall and proud for centuries, it's all there. But the package falls short. The puzzles are easy with little logic or common sense. The quote-unquote side quests, which aren't side quests, they're just your main objectives that are posed as side quests. You do consider going a lot of back and forth, like a mission where you help Jean-Baptiste Lully. It's a simple mission, but it drags on with how slow everything moves in the game. You have to go back and forth, talk to the same guy, I think 2 or 3 times, and since the game is so slow, that mission took about 20 minutes, give or take. Yeah. Even with the fast forward ability in the emulator, some points just dragged on. And the music, while I do appreciate it, I just turned it off after a while. The documentation is so dull, you have more fun reading a wiki article, and the menu navigation is simply horrendous. It's a point-and-click game on the PlayStation, or on a console. I've never liked point-and-clicks on console. While I do like Clock Tower, never enjoyed it on a console. There's no replay value in this, which for me is odd. Don't you want people replaying your edutainment game? And it's part of gaming history, very small part of gaming history, that I would simply advise a hard pass on for playing this, but owning a physical copy just for its rarity.